Fifth Hour Radio Show.
So, Parker, tell us a little bit about how you began your career in bowling. Where are you originally from, and how did you pick up the sport?
Well, I grew up in a town literally 15 minutes from here. It was the next town over, Freehold, New Jersey. I went down to Lane, Howell. I spell it out for everybody because that same bowling center is still there today, owned pretty much by the same family, another generation down. And it's where I go practice. Needless to say, it was one of those things. My mom took me there when I was 8 years old, and I pulled her pant leg to take me back ever since.
She spent a lot of money on you.
Yeah, slightly. I guess I could look at it now, or maybe she looks at it and goes, money well spent.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. When did you first get the notion that this was something you could do and actually make money doing it? Was there one competition or just one moment that put that idea, in your head?
There wasn't just one moment. I mean, there was a combination of a lot of things. I've told a lot of people that the summer that I was 17 was the summer that really I wanted to try to make it work, figure it out. And it wasn't necessarily making money because I was still bowling junior leagues. And junior leagues back when I was a kid, there was no such thing as scholarship money. You bowled because your heart was in the sport and you enjoyed it. And, so I just kept going out there trying to become the best bowler that I possibly could. In essence, I'm going to tell you right now, I was averaging about 200 games a week.
Wow. Now, in the beginning, how often did you find yourself in the alley? Now, you said 200 games. Is that like every day?
Well, yeah, the summer I turned 17, I was driving then, and I was the first one in the bowling center most mornings because I had the job of oiling the lanes, and there were a lot of times that I was the last one to leave at night, and, just because I'd be out there on the lanes practicing.
Now, how do you practice to become such a great bowler? Did you throw balls to intentionally set yourself up for the next shot, so you could practice picking up spares and splits and stuff like that?
No, I just kept practicing my first ball, over and over, trying to make it as good as it could possibly be. And a lot of those times when I say I was throwing my first ball, I wasn't the kid growing up hitting the reset button. Too many young bowlers today, not just young bowlers, but adults as well, they don't believe in shooting that spare. They just hit the reset button and go out there and throw another strike ball. Well, I'll tell you what, God bless everybody that rolls a ball down the lane, because I've yet to meet anybody that rolls a strike every single time, and that includes Walter Ray, Pete Weber, Norm Duke, and so on.
Now, as far as finding the right ball that fits your style, do you have different weights of balls that you use for particular shots? How does that work? How does that come into play?
No, I always threw 16 pounds. I'll say I started rolling 16 pounds probably the summer I turned 17. And I've always been able to get 16 pounds down the lane pretty easily because I let the ball swing from my shoulder and use my legs as my strength. That's my strong point. And it's just recently, about 20 months ago, that I flipped the switch and went down to 15 pounds. The one thing I tell a lot of people, you cannot fluctuate up and down in weight. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's very hard for the greatest bowlers in the world to do it, and very few of them actually do that. There are, a handful that may try it, but to be honest with you, once you have a weight that works for you, stay with that weight.
You were talking about oiling the lanes earlier. They are slick. All the memories I have of a bowling alley's lane is absolutely slick. Have you ever had any nasty spills when you were bowling?
Yeah, I think everybody's gone down at one time or another. It's not a pleasurable moment. More than likely, you are embarrassed beyond control because you can't believe this just happened to you. And unfortunately, there are people that do get hurt and hurt quite a bit by doing so. Because that lane's not soft when you land on it, and it's totally unexpected.
Has that ever happened to you on television?
No, fortunately not. And I don't want to jinx myself. I'm going to knock on wood on this test here right now.
I'll knock on wood for you, too. Now, when you're competing, do nerves ever come into play when you're on television like that, as opposed to when the cameras aren't rolling?
In what regards?
I mean, do you feel like a little added pressure when you're in the spotlight? Does that bring out the best in you?
You know what? I think that any bowler that's ever bowled on TV will tell you, if you get past the first shot, the rest of it is history. I've always been a firm believer. The first shot is the one that gets you. You're a little bit on the white knuckles. I mean, you've practiced it. You know how to do it, but you don't want to get out of the gate an unfortunate shot or an errant shot or, well, let's put it bluntly, throwing a gutter ball. it doesn't make you feel very good. I can tell you, though, say that I bowled Norm Duke for the title in the Japan Cup one year. I led the tournament by a substantial amount of pins, 300 or 400 pins. I started out in the title match, gutter 7, my first frame. I sat back down on the chair because Norm was up next. And as soon as I sat on the chair, I said, well, it can only go one way from here. That's up. Can't get any worse.
Now, in my opinion... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I won the 234 to 233.
Now, in my opinion, bowling is like watching a golf game. There's a certain etiquette involved, especially with spectators. Does a large crowd disrupt your game? I mean, or a loud crowd disrupt your game?
No, not really. If you know the crowd is making a lot of noise, I'm okay. You can go with that. What really disrupts your game, and it's not just me, it's anybody, is have the respect for the player or players when they're up on the approach. When we're bowling qualifying, there's a fair amount of gibber going on in the back, and there's some noise. But I can be the first to tell you that if somebody drops a glass when one of the players is on the approach, regardless of how many, it's going to startle that player and get the best of them.
Have you ever had to put anybody in their place because of that?
You mean because they're making a little too much noise?
Oh, man. What? No, dropping glasses, screaming, hollering, intentionally trying to mess your game up.
No, nobody's done it intentionally to me. And I don't want to see it ever happen to me intentionally, but I don't want to see it happen to anybody else neither. It's one of those you try to have respect for your fellow competitor, and you're hopeful that the fans that come in also have that same respect.
Now, I was watching a clip when you bowled a 300 game on a televised event. I think that was back in '98, and the crowd was going crazy each time you threw the ball, especially towards the end of the match. Did you feed off the crowd then?
Well, your energy is flowing. It's unbelievable the feeling that you have at that moment in time when you have 8, 9, 10 in a row. You're not just strolling through the park, bowling an average 300 game back at home in your league. You're bowling it on national TV. You've got an opponent there, and more importantly, you've got fan support behind you, and you know that there's an X amount of people, when I say X, between a couple 100,000 to as many as 2 or 3 million people that are watching you through that TV at home.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have to ask you, is bowling a lot like a lot of other sports where you have friendly trash talk between competitors?
Yeah, there's usually something going on there between somebody, and whether it's two guys that are at each other's throat or two good friends that are trying to get under each other's skin, more or less to try to get one up on the next guy. But when it's all said and done, I can tell you right now, if you take two guys that hate each other the most, if one of them was broke down going down the road, I believe in my heart that the other guy would at least stop to make sure that he's okay.
There's that kind of camaraderie in the sport.
There really is. It's like a big brothership in some regards, because we all know that we're out there trying to do the same thing, knock over 10 pins. And as much as I want to win, the same as every other guy, when it's all said and done, we all go about our business doing our own thing, but our paths will cross again in just a shortcoming few days.
Now, do you have certain bowlers out there that get you pumped, knowing you're about to compete against them? Any grudge match opponents or friendly rivalries?
Well, I don't want to say grudge match. When I say that, obviously I've got my brother-in-law, Doug Kent. We could always have a really good friendly match. I've spent a fair amount of time here with Sean Rash over the last 5 or 6 years because we do a lot of international stuff together. And a room with Jason Couch for over 10 years out on tour. And Jason and me, we'd have a lot of fun matches, regardless whether they were on TV or off. But, you know, I just look at it and go about my business, and so does everybody else. And Mark Roth told me a long time ago when he helped when I was a kid, he said, I just want you to understand, I will help you in any way, shape, or form that I can, but please know that if I bowl you in a one-game match for those 10 frames, I do not know you.
Now, how long do you think you have left in competing competitively? I know you're only 50, but you've done about all there is that can be done in the sport. Is there any other goals or achievements you still have your eye on?
You know, I say this, and I say it meaning, you know, I'm a very realistic person. Figuring out a way to capture PBA Player of the Year one more time in my career, that wouldn't be a bad thing. You know, I'd really have to put a solid year together. And I know that I don't put the work into my game now that I did when I was 20 or 30. But I have a lot of other things going along. You know, I've got a solidified job, obviously, with Brunswick now. I'm a product specialist. By all means, I've got a family. I've got 3 kids that they can't get enough bowling. As a matter of fact, I took them down to the bowling center today, and they were practicing a little bit, and I was able to join in for 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow, do you see any of them being pro bowlers in the future?
I'd say that there's a definite chance for one of my sons to continue kegling as their livelihood gets a little bit older in time. Mm-hmm. You know, I got one on both sides of the lane, one righty, one lefty, and I can tell you right now, sitting here talking to you, they can't get enough of it.
Oh, that's awesome. So outside of bowling, what's it like in a day for you? You have any hobbies, favorite TV shows that you enjoy doing or, you know, or watching?
You'll laugh if I tell you, usually my day starts out watching Today's Show between about 7 and 7:30. That's about the best time to find out what's going on in the world. And at night before I go to bed, typically I'm watching the Weather Channel. I want to see what the weather's going to be like the next day, depending where I have to go or what's going on.
No Big Bang Theory or Walking Dead for you, huh?
No, not really. Not really. I've got so many things going on all the time. Sitting down and kicking back, watch a movie is a real rarity, and my wife will tell you the same thing. She gave up a long time ago trying to keep up with me.
So what's coming up on your plate in the near future? Any big competitions or events on the horizon?
Well, I just got done over the last 6 weeks. I had 3 different international trips. I was over in Japan for 6 days at the end of August, came home 6 days, back to Korea for 8 days, home 4 days, and then went over to Europe for 2 weeks. You know, I'm here right now. Tomorrow morning I have to take off very early. I'm flying out to California. I'm going to bowl a regional this weekend and do some other work for Brunswick.
Well,
We've got the World Series of Bowling coming up in the end of October there. You know, for all the listeners, please tune in. You know, go on to PBA Extra Frame and stay tuned and watch. Hopefully root for me, but root for your favorite player. And then in a short little time after that, all of the players that qualify for the Japan Cup are going to go over there Thanksgiving week. And I'll be over in Japan for 10 days. Afterwards, I will head down to Australia for 2 weeks. We've got clinics all over the country of Australia.
Well, for your sake, I hope you enjoy traveling.
I'll tell you what, I can sleep on a plane with the best of them.
Hey, do you have a website or any social media pages that people can go and get more information about you? You know, things we haven't covered.
You know, anybody that really wants to get a hold of me, the easiest way, they can email me, parker@parkerbone.com. You know, we used to update our website a lot more than we do currently, but with everything else going on, I try to do the best I can. We have a couple of different Facebook pages out there, and I'll say just tune in, keep watching, and God knowing, or God willing, let's say, hopefully you keep rooting for me. You keep rooting, I promise I'll keep trying.
Well, Parker, I want to thank you for joining us today on the show, man.
Well, I really appreciate it.
All right.
We'll see you on the lane, man.
If I see you, I'm going to challenge you to a match.
I know. Well, you know what? I'm not this kind of guy, but I'll just tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. Your money's as green as mine. Just bring it.
You have a good one, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
25th Hour Radio Show.